Space Monkeys blasting off with Santi Balaguer. He's business development lead for Parity. Really happy to have him on the show. Sir, welcome.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
100%. So, as you very well said, I'm BD lead at Parity, right? I got into this space a couple of years ago. Let's say 3-4 years ago, more or less. I was always keen into this sort of like industry. Polkadot was always there as a very interesting project, in my opinion. But before that, I actually used to work here in Buenos Aires. I'm from Argentina, and I used to work for Procter & Gamble. I actually sold diapers. I know a hell lot about diapers. And now what I do at Parity is, as you said, I'm a BD lead, and I basically work in the part of the business development team that has to do with teams that are committed into building our ecosystem.
Yeah.
So I basically help them become actually Parachains on the ecosystem. So I had the chance to work with almost all Polkadot Parachains right now, and with a bunch of projects that will become Parachains in the future. So that's very cool.
And how did this relationship with Parity start?
I wanted to just jump into a more technological product. I wanted to step out from the diapers business. And ideally on that technological product would be blockchain related, and ideally a very low infrastructure project, right? So Polkadot fit very well into my desire. So I got a scholarship to study web development in Lisbon. I moved to Lisbon, and then I started off as an intern at Parity. So I did 10 years of P&G, got to being a brand manager, and all of a sudden a new internship at Parity started, and my life started again, and here we are.
When you spend 10 years building a kind of a career in somewhere, what does that transition look like when you have to go from like putting in the work, you've done the hard stuff and kind of proven yourself, and now you have to almost start completely over?
You need to be humble if you're going to be in the blockchain space, right? Because it's impossible to know absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And the moment that you think you know everything, you're just going to lose a big picture, right?
Yeah.
So I knew that I needed to learn a lot of things, and internship was the right move for me. Although, of course, I had to humble down and say, okay, this is what I need to do for the next 6-8 months. I need to learn, I need to sit down and get at it, and I did it. And here we are.
What are your main objectives day to day for Parity?
I try to work with a lot of teams that want to become Parachains in our ecosystem, right? Either they want to become Parachains, or they want to provide some sort of service to the Parachains. So think about wallets, think about indexers, like those sort of projects, right?
Sure.
So we sort of work with them from an MVP stage all the way up to becoming that project that can be used afterwards. And right now, we're working with around 60 different projects in the ecosystem.
Wow.
And scaling that up and this year.
Decoded is hosted in Buenos Aires. How does that feel to you?
I'm extremely pleasantly surprised with the way that the ecosystem is in here, right? But I would divide it a little bit into what I see it's happening at the moment. So I'm seeing a lot of actual builders of applications being outside of Argentina, but a lot of actual users being in Argentina, right?
Interesting.
Oh.
Yeah. So you've got here an economy that has 70% inflation a year. So people need to escape that. And people use blockchain to escape that. They use DeFi to escape that, right?
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of things a bunch of products that people here use. A lot of people here in Argentina, unfortunately, got very, very much wrecked with Luna, right? So Argentina has a big restriction on the ability that people have to buy dollars. People here can buy only $200 a month. With 60%, 70% inflation in pesos, you need something else to protect your money, right? Or you spend it, or you try to find something up. So when they saw Luna offering 20% yield on stablecoins a year, that was a no-brainer for everybody here, right?
Yeah.
But well, unfortunate things went south, and yeah.
Hey,
But it still talks to the fact that people here need these tools, right? And they have to use them on a day-to-day basis to protect themselves. It's a bit bigger than just yield on stablecoins, right? It's just pseudo products that people can use without relying on intermediaries at all, right? And in Argentina specifically, there's such levels of corruptions that we are talking about money because it's the easiest thing to explain, but that happens on everything that you do every single day in the end, right? But I still believe that from what I've had this past 2 weeks that I've been in Argentina trying to connect with the people here, it's amazing how people need to use these tools, right? And a bunch of users are staying here.
What can be done to help educate people to make sure that there is some sort of safeguards? There's almost a borderline of regulation versus education. Is there a point where you regulate, or focus on education and letting people just make the choices?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it has there's no one actor that has to be responsible for this, in my opinion, right? It's a bunch of people that have to be involved in this. People themselves with this sort of scars they learn as well, right?
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, but that's part of the process, in my opinion, right? This is so new that these things will happen. But also developers or builders themselves need to be responsible on what they do, right? They need to be here for the very, very long term. It's not short-term gains. And unfortunately, this space, the blockchain space in general, right, is a lot, especially on bull markets, about very short-term gains, where you get into Twitter and everybody says, buy this and you will become a millionaire.
Right.
When that's not the case.
Right.
Nobody gives you money for free at all, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like being responsible from a building perspective, and that is very good. And this sort of like market cycle that we're in right now, in my opinion, has the most responsible builders at all. The ones that just do not care about becoming millionaires, but actually producing products that will impact the life of the people in the long run, right?
It was kind of crazy. You said a little bit ago that you're talking to 60 projects coming up.
Correct, yeah.
So what kind of programs are you building to like scale that much communication, that much education? What are you doing to address this need?
Yeah, so it all started when I joined Parity 2 years ago with what we call the Substrate Builders Program. That's our main development program that we have to help teams like run their projects and become Parachains eventually. That program has the 60 different projects. When I say 60, it's some projects are already connected and some projects that will become Parachains in the future. Also wallets and indexers, people building tools for things like ink smart contracts and all of that, right? But what we realized is that the Substrate Builders Program does not fit everybody, right? It has some requirements that was leaving a lot of people out. So we started this new initiative like 2 months ago, more or less, called Square One, that we try for it to be sort of like a lighthouse in our ecosystem, right? Where anybody can try and see all the different tools that we have, all the different initiatives that we have across Parity and Web3 Foundation, and we try to understand what their status is, what their current development roadmap is, what is that they're looking for, and we try to match that with the initiatives that we have, right? So we started that fairly soon, and it's open to everybody, not only developers.
Do you have incentives, like financial incentives, supportive incentives? Like what is it that you guys are doing to really support these projects?
It depends on what the project needs, right? I'm thinking about a project that we're about to launch on Luna, actually, right? An Argentinian project, even though we're here.
No way.
And they all of a sudden realized that they had nowhere to go, right?
Yeah.
And Cosmos is very similar to Ink. So they just pivoted to Ink, and we helped them with a Web3 Foundation grant. They actually applied and went through the process to actually deliver that Ink product that will then deploy it on our ecosystem somewhere, right? But it could be other things, right? Maybe there's somebody that has an idea, right, and does not have a team. So why don't we help them connect with a hackathon near where they live, so they can pitch that idea to some developers that are on the hackathon as well, so they can build it together. So it depends a lot on what they're looking for and what we can offer.
Say I'm a brand new dev or a brand new builder, and I'm going through all of the ecosystems. Why Polkadot?
I would say two things, right? The first one is, if you're serious about your product, you want to be here in the long term. And in my opinion, Polkadot is a network that's going to be here in the next 10 to 15 years. I cannot say the same thing about other products out there, other blockchains out there. So if you're serious about what you're building, if you're not tinkering around, then Polkadot is the way to go, right? But in order for you to get there, we can also help you get there, right? So we got things like the Polkadot Blockchain Academy that's launching the first edition right now in July. The Polkadot Blockchain Academy is happening in July, 4 weeks, presence in Cambridge this time around, with teachers like Gav, like Sean, like Rob, like all the core developers, Gav himself, right? Teaching, okay, guys, this is blockchain, this is Substrate, let's build this together. Or even, we've got, as I said before, the ability to just connect you with different hackathons for you to just play around and develop this. Or even, I don't know, our documentation, I'd say it's pretty straightforward and well put together for you to learn and develop a project. But all in all, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, why should I build Polkadot? I'd say, because if you're real about this, Polkadot will last.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about Parity because, people who are just like holding tokens and whatnot, we hear like, oh, we're waiting on Parity to do this, waiting on Parity to do this. What can you tell us from the inside that Parity is really doing in the breadth of their operations?
Well, I could say that this is a very, very extremely personal opinion. But
please.
I go very much against, I'm waiting for Parity to do this, right?
Oh, yes.
Parity is just another actor in this whole space.
100%.
And this is a decentralized network. Polkadot is a decentralized entity, and we're all here to build it. Of course, Parity has a big responsibility for sure, because we basically write the code behind Polkadot, but that should not necessarily be the case, right?
Yeah.
We're even open for people to write the code themselves. So the first thing that I would say to that is, well, let's not wait on Parity to do something, let's all do it, right? But from the inside, I do see a lot of activity going on, right? Especially on the development front.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like in this in between on the BD space, right? Trying to help the teams develop the project. So I do talk a lot with our dev teams as well. And the activity there is quite high from every single actor in the ecosystem. You could have Gav asking things on a Saturday morning to all the other devs, like, hey, this is a new PR. Can somebody review it so we can merge it or whatnot? And it's Gav on a Saturday morning, right?
Yeah.
And that's quite intense. And on the same side, on the BD side that I can vouch for, we try to do a lot into getting more and more builders into our ecosystem, but not only stay there, but when they are in here, just help them make sure that they actually build.
Very interesting. I want to bring up something else here. I think a pain point that a lot of people don't realize is happening right now in the ecosystem is kind of a lack of knowledgeable auditors.
Yeah.
Right? We have all these teams building amazing code, but then we only have a few firms that are actually able to verify that the code is not going to wreck everybody. How are we dealing with this issue right now? And is this something that Parity's taking on, or are there other initiatives that you know of?
Yeah, so there's a security team at Parity that sort of like overlooks these things going on, but training these auditors is not easy either, right?
No.
The firms that are out there, like Ezra Labs, Trail of Bits, Quackslab, there's a bunch of them, right? What we try to do sometimes is we run some experiments with them, see how they do, and try to see what we can work with together. But all in all, more people are needed in the end, right?
Yeah.
But it does not happen only to Substrate code. If you go to Ethereum Solidity, same thing happens, right? Try to book some time with Open Zeppelin. They will tell you, okay, I've got time 8 months from now, at the very least.
Crazy.
It's sort of like all around, right? Audits are extremely important, but there are not that many auditors across the board.
Maybe that's where the Kusama chain comes in. Maybe we can just...
Exactly, right? Not only Kusama, but Rococo as well.
Right, yes.
Self-auditing, managed, like doing stuff till it breaks and keep fixing it.
That's
Exactly.
right.
But Gav said it yesterday, right? Governance fee too. He said like, okay, we're waiting for this to be properly audited and whatnot, and that's Parity being audited, right? And he said, but well, we'll probably just deploy this on Kusama first, right, and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And that's what Kusama is for, right? Expect chaos at its best.
Personally, I expected to have a decent chunk of my net worth hinging on a referendum by now.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, right?
But the thing is that Kusama got to a point last year where that was not the overall sentiment of the community, right? It got very serious very fast.
I know, yeah. Exactly.
But fortunately, I believe that sentiment went away a little bit.
Dissolving a bit, yeah.
Yeah, but there was a moment with the first 5 Parachains, I think it was, that
they were like official.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Kusama, right?
Yeah, I know.
It's like that's not what Kusama's for, right?
Yeah, right.
What are some of the things that you're looking forward to the most in Web3 space in general?
Mm-hmm. One thing that I was point out as something that I would love on Polkadot as well is a nice, truly decentralized file storage solution, right?
File storage?
Yeah. If you look at Web 2, everything that we do, or a lot of things that we do, we need to save things around. We need to share things around. Especially for the Polkadot sort of like architecture, a file storage chain will make a huge difference, right? So think for a minute, a Polkadot blockchain with only 3 parachains. A smart contracts parachain, a DeFi parachain, and a file storage parachain, right? So right there, you can have a very nice sort of like NFT marketplace happening using all these parachains all together. Because maybe you've got an NFT, right? And the smart contract says that you are the owner of the NFT, all the metadata lives on the file storage chain, and the actual JPEG and whatever lives on the file storage chain. But then I want to buy the NFT from you, I just have my coins on the DeFi chain, right? So when somebody has a UI that says, hey, Santiago's going to buy this NFT, I just click a button that says buy, but what's actually happening under the hood is that the smart contract triggers sort of like an action to the file storage chain that changes the ownership of your metadata from you to me. It triggers another action to the DeFi chain, triggering the transfer from my tokens to your account, and then it saves that information so like this thing happened, right? And that is the truly purpose of Polkadot altogether. All these chains sort of like working together to provide this service, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
And that could be amazing.
Sweet, man. Well, it was so awesome to have you on here and get your perspective, not only of Parity, but also where we are in Argentina here.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you guys very much. I really enjoyed this.